Oh, there we go.
Okay, good morning. Bill, are you ready with the, okay, good morning, it's Monday.
Conference unmuted, recorded.
Good morning, it's Monday, July 20th, 2020, 9 a.m. This is Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to review the agenda.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Santos,
Second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 3 is discussion of possible action authorizing chair to execute a memorandum of understanding for the FFY 2020 Justice Assistance Grant Direct Award in the amount of $6,305.20 with Chief Deputy Sheriff Ardith Slight. I don't know, Ardith is not with us this morning, but is she on the phone?
I'm here.
Okay, good morning, Ardith. Would you like to share that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't really have anything. We've done this grant a number of times. It's an annual thing that is in conjunction with the Muscatine Police Department. We share the grant and it's 50-50 split. So this is a grant for approximately $6,305.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
And it's included in the budget.
Okay,
I'll move to approve.
so I have a motion by Santos,
Second.
second by Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, pardon me. Items with Mike Nolan of Horizon Architecture. Mike, are you on the phone with us this morning?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning, Mike. Item number 4A is to review the bids and possible action to accept a bid for the Muscatine County Jail partial roof replacement project. Mike, did you want to go through that a little bit with us?
Yep. So we released this for bid, I believe about 3 weeks back, and essentially we had a total of, let me pull the document up here, 5 bidders, or 6 bidders that ended up bidding on the project. We had 2 bidders that came to the pre-bid walkthrough, 1 bidder that came later, 3 that did not come to the walkthrough at all or look at the project. I will just note that during the course of the walkthrough, 2 of the bidding firms took core samples, so we modified the original scope of the project to add additional 2.5 inches of insulation to the lower roof. We had done cores on the upper roof, which had shown that it was meeting the current insulation requirements, but the lower roof we discovered was not up to current code. So we had to add 2.5 inches of insulation there, which through addendum we made some minor scope modifications. That being said, the original opinion of cost for the project was around $330,000. So we had a lot of bids that came in well under that, so we're very happy to see that. The bidder, Jim Geist Commercial Roofing, had also done the previous repairs on the upper roof in the newer portion. They came to the walkthrough, come highly qualified, and they came in as the low bid at $243,045. So pretty excited about that. So my recommendation is that we move forward with accepting the bid from Jim Geist Commercial Roofing to do that work. From a schedule standpoint, they think they have one project that popped up here at the end of July, and they'll be in probably the first part of August to start that work.
Okay. So your recommendation would be accept the bid from Jim Geist Commercial Roofing?
That's correct.
Okay.
Was there any on their quotes for, and I know we've had this in the past in regards to, unforeseen areas or areas that are not in the scope originally? Did we have that kind of I saw you had cost per areas as far as drainage and damaged roof decking, and those kind of costs varied, but was there any extra cost that we're not seeing right now that may come up later, so kind of understanding what the total bid is going to be about?
Sure. The goal was to go through and define the scope as much as possible, and I think we had a very thorough scope to the definition in the drawings and through the addendum process. So we are doing a total tear-off of the membrane for the EPDM, which is, if you look above at the black portion of the roof, and all of the associated copings around the perimeter. The one thing we did allow them to do is there's some counter flashing, which is a two-piece counter flashing around the wall transition. If that is still serviceable and they know they're going into this at their risk, they can reuse that. But otherwise, they'll be replacing all the flashings. So we did a thorough walkthrough. I walked through with Oscar a couple of times to make sure that we had accounted for everything on the roof. For what we know and from what we can see, this is a fully 100% defined project. So again, if there's anything that we anticipated, we would have either put that into scope or would have done it by unit price.
Okay.
The unit prices you can see that we do have here, we did two different for the board insulation. And that's just due to, some of it is flat, just flat, consistent thickness insulation. The upper roof has some areas of tapered insulation, which is a slightly more expensive product. The reason that they would replace this is if for whatever reason they opened or took the membrane off and found saturated insulation or some area that had significant degradation to it. With the cores, we took about 4 cores during their walkthrough, and what we do with the cores, essentially you take about a 1-inch diameter hole all the way through down to the roof deck. The insulation was in good shape. There wasn't any wet insulation. So again, this is just kind of a cover your bases. So I don't anticipate that being an issue. That being said, that's the one thing we won't know until we take all the roof off to see, or the membrane off. So that's covered in the unit cost. The roof assemblies for the drains, everything appears to be in good shape, but I know there have been a couple that have been problematic in the past. So we just wanted to cover ourselves in case that would come up. At this point, talking with the maintenance staff, there are no known leak issues around any of the existing drains. So that was just one thing that you won't know until we get into it. And then the last would be if for whatever reason we found an area that had significant water damage and infiltration that had led to roof deck damage, we have that covered. Again, I feel like we would know about that beforehand, but that's kind of a long way of saying I think we have our bases covered. And right now, I don't see any areas or foresee any significant areas based off of the walkthrough and the questions we have from the bidders that would not be accounted for in the project.
Okay. So two more questions. So when you talked about the insulation that you talked about, that you did another sample and you found out that you needed to add more insulation. Is the insulation that we have on the current building or the jail, is that like a styrofoam insulation, or is it an actual R value insulation of some sort that you're talking about that's underneath the EPDM membrane?
Yep, so the existing insulation, we have 2.5 inches of polyisocyanated insulation, which is it's a board type insulation product, which is fairly typical for a roof of this age. Mm-hmm. We will add another 2.5 inches of polyisocyanated insulation to the top of that. And then above that, we did approve to use a high density polyisocyanated cover board. The reason we did the cover board is just for the future. There's a danger when you tear off an interior membrane roof that if you tear off, you can also pull off the top layer of the insulation. So what the cover board does is gives you a sacrificial layer. So the next time we come back to do a re-roof project, we know for sure the existing insulation could stay in place. So there again, this is all consistent. And the other part we looked at with this project is designing for an FM90 wind rating, which actually exceeds the requirements we have for our area just based off of some of the extreme weather events we've had. So this roof will be designed, even though it's not necessarily for insurance purposes required to be an FM90, the whole assembly is designed to an FM90 standard. So.
Okay, my last question then, if awarded the bid today, what timeline are they giving us as far as time of work and then completion dates?
I didn't ask for a full duration. They'll give us a project schedule as part of the contract execution process. Speaking with Chris, the estimator, who said they had one project for a school they need to get knocked out towards the end of July, and then they would be in for the first part of August to start this project. So my suspicion on duration, given the size of the roof, is we're probably maybe a 6 to 8 week project.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Okay, so I have a motion by Santos to accept the award to Jim Geis Commercial Roofing, and I have the second by Nathan. Any further discussion? Just a quick comment question, maybe Sherry, I believe this is the group that did our community services roof as well? Is that correct?
No.
No?
No, but they did do some, I believe, took a look at our gutter system at the courthouse.
So we,
And did a little bit there.
they
so-
seem familiar to me, and
Yes.
they've worked for us before, and
Yes.
we have had good success. Very good. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number B is discussion possible action to approve a certificate of substantial completion dated July 20th, 2020 for the Muscatine County Maintenance Facility Project. I believe that was all in your packet. Mike, did you want to talk about that a bit?
Yep, absolutely. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I know that we've been trying to get the project wrapped up, it feels like, for a little while here. Speaking with Swanson, kind of the requirements that we had for the building to be occupiable was to have most of the aesthetic work completed, and then also to have the fiber connected. You'll note that after following up, they had the fiber connected on the building side, but they're going to need to come back and tie that into the patch panel here. My understanding is it's supposed to happen the first part of this week. Discussing with Oscar, they're not planning to obviously move in and take occupancy of the building right away. What we wanted to do was be able to start to move material and equipment into the building. So that's what we're recommending right now, is to take substantial completion of the building, which means that we can start to move in, get ourselves set up there. The building will be occupiable in the fairly short term with the items that are identified here as still to be remaining. This is fairly typical in a project of having punch list items that are outstanding to be completed. And again, we wanted to make the recommendation to you to make sure you're comfortable accepting the building. We did have a very extensive punch list, things as far as the concrete cracks, things along that line, which have all been addressed and corrected. So the outstanding items you can see here on the exterior, we have some decorative screening and signage on the porch. We have the ADA handrails to go on the ramp to the west of the building. They need to do some exterior restoration of the geothermal field, and then they need to demobilize, essentially get their material, equipment, and trailers off the site. On the interior, the contractor pointed this out, that they feel like there's some surface rust on the doors. They are continuing to work that issue, whether it's going to be a repaint or replace the doors. That's something they're in process with, so we just want to make sure we capture that. Again, nothing that's a issue for the use of the building right now. It's maybe something that we'll work on over time. For the maintenance bay, just a very minor thing, some exterior sealant above the exterior door. And they have some gaps. This was a request by the maintenance staff to get, close up all the gaps in the tool and work room to avoid dust accumulation. And they're going to give us a credit back for under cabinet lighting. This was something that they missed in their initial installation. Talking with Oscar, he didn't feel like it was that important, and after seeing the space, we're not looking at this being a major work area, so we agreed that's something we could forego. So those are items that Swanson understands they need to come back and continue to correct, but more or less we want to get a acceptance of the building for substantial completion, mainly for your convenience, so the county can start moving in and take control of the facility. I also spoke with Mike Hopkins at the city. He will want to see that ADA handrail installed before he does a final certificate of occupancy, but he had no issues issuing a temporary certificate of occupancy at this point.
Okay.
On the completion states, as far as these exterior and interior items, is that a punch list items that you will be addressing, or are we handing that over to Oscar, or how will that be handled, Mike?
No, I'll continue to follow these items up until we get through project closeout. This remains part of the construction management portion of that. So as far as Oscar's guys are confirmed, they're just going to move into the building and use what needs to be done. I will obviously coordinate with Oscar on any work that needs to be done on the building to ensure it's not impacting their operations at the point that they get in there.
Mike, it states here, restore geothermal field surface. Tell me what that consists of.
So if you take a look along 5th Street, there's just an area where they use for laydown, that there's some gravel, and it just needs to be reseeded. I talked to Keegan, the construction, their project manager, and he said, yeah, he's been over there raking up the gravel. They just need to understand that what we consider to be restored is all of that gravel and stone removed and reseeded or resodded back to the original purpose. So essentially, in the project guidelines and the project manuals that essentially restore surrounding surfaces back to their original condition. So that's what we're looking for, is to have that back to green grass growing back over there like it was before they started.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mike, on the signage and around the exterior, are we gonna have a sign that actually says what the building is, or are you talking signage for parking, or what is the actual signage on the buildings?
Yeah, it's a good question. On the original project or on the documents on the front porch, as you drive by now, you can see it's fairly open. We're going to have a perforated corrugated screen, so basically a decorated screen that's going to be to the left and to the right of the stairs. And then there will be signage on there that says Muscatine County General Services Building. I mean, I think maybe just Muscatine County General Services, but yes, we'll have signage that will identify that as a county building.
Okay.
Okay. So any further discussion? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve the certificate of substantial completion.
I'll make that motion.
The motion by Santos,
I'll second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay, item number C is discussion and possible action to approve change order number 20 in the amount of $9,978.61 for the Muscatine County Maintenance Facility Project. Mike, did you want to chat about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've taken a walk through the building, in the general services maintenance bay, we have the mezzanine overhead. We have a hoist installed, and you can see fairly clearly where the gate and the hoist is that the garage door track is interfering with that. So essentially, you open the gate, the garage door track is right in the way. This is something we looked at and have been considering different options for it. What it boils down to is this was a miss on my part. Their design just didn't anticipate the conflict. We've been working with Swanson and also working with the overhead door dealer to see if we could do a high lift door or something to basically to modify the existing condition. Ultimately, with the space available, it's just not practical to reuse the overhead door, so we need to replace that with a coiling overhead door. Essentially, this will be the same type of product that we would have on the Sally Port over in the sheriff's office. This is something that unfortunately we would have come across this at some point in the project anyway. At the point the garage overhead doors were installed was kind of when we went into lockdown. We had a little less on-site supervision, so it's something that we've been tracking for about 6 weeks. It just is now we kind of came to the point that this is where we need to go with it. This is not the contractor's responsibility. This is mine, and essentially what I'm offer is just to forego the remainder of my construction management fee to help defray the cost of this. But we need to have this work done to essentially make the building functional for the maintenance staff and be able to use that hoist.
So, Mike, explain, I guess I'm a little questioning about what you're basically explaining. You're saying, so the roll-up door, in the sense then the track runs all the way across to where this crane / hoist is not allowing it to be operational because the garage door framing is in the way, or what does that mean? Or I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So if you think about like your typical garage overhead door, it goes up and then it goes back flat. So when it's open, it's parallel to the floor. It just so happens that the size of the track of that 12-foot door is about at 13 feet. Our mezzanine is 10-foot floor, 10.5-foot floor with a 4-foot rail on it. So essentially where we have that gate that we would be able to hoist equipment up and bring it onto the mezzanine, the rail for the garage door is right in the way. Additionally, you wouldn't be able to use that hoist at all if the garage door was open. So it interferes, and there's just no way to adapt basically a standard segmental overhead door to that situation, given the geometry, location of windows. So what we need to do is to do a coiling door as the solution for that.
And that's that door, that impacts the door on the 5th Street side, correct?
That's correct. That's the only door that is impacting. Yep.
So, let me ask this then. So if the door was to be completely closed, could the operation still use that hoist, or is it just, or they would have to actually physically remove some of the framing to use that hoist?
Exactly. Yeah. I think when the contractor used the hoist to bring the compressor up, and when they did that, they physically unbolted and removed a piece of the frame rail to be able to do that. I just think that that's not a tenable solution. It's not. I think dismantling the building is not something we're
No,
the upright
no,
door.
and that's what I was wondering, if we could get away with not, if we could close the door and then use the hoist and then roll up the door or whatever, but if it physically
Yeah.
needs to be dismembering the frame, then yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's essentially what you have to do, and I honestly just don't feel like that's not a good long-term solution. It certainly is a workaround, but not something that I think is fair to impose on our maintenance staff.
So can we keep the old door as a spare or anything, since we got that already as another existing, or are they gonna take the door and everything and the chain and all that other framing on it?
That certainly is a possibility. I did inquire with Myers if they were using the same vendor for the overhead doors. Unfortunately, they're using a different vendor on the sheriff's office. I could certainly ask if it's one that they'd be willing to reinstall this door. At this point, certainly the county would have ownership of that door. If you have somewhere that you could use a 12-foot by 12-foot overhead door, certainly we could reuse that, and maybe something we could reach out to the engineer and see if they have a use for it. Right now, with the current facility, short of using that in the new deputy's facility, I don't know anywhere that we would have use for that door.
I was just more thinking as far as the controls and the motor and whatnot, since we're having that on the other existing doors that we have that are all gonna be similar.
It may be worthwhile to keep that, because that is the same doors on the other portion of that. It's a question of where would we store that. So that's a question probably beyond.
Yep, but I'm just thinking more of the controls and the motors and the I don't know if that's on a PLC or how that stuff's run off, so, but we can probably ask Oscar if he wants to spare some of those things versus us just utilizing and giving that back to them to probably sell to somebody else.
Why
Yep.
could,
Yeah, we can certainly have them retain that and leave that for you.
there's no way they'll give a credit for that door.
I know, I can't, I don't think so. I could ask, but I think that would have been offered at this point. And previously installed, they'd have to be able to sell it as a used door, given that it was, the colors and things along that line. I will certainly inquire.
Okay, well, if we can I'll make a motion to make the change as long as we can utilize and save the old equipment at our disposal, and if it turns out that Oscar doesn't want it or anything of that nature, then I figure we can probably, see if they want to dispose of the actual door frame, but the rest of it, the motors and the controls and the remotes and everything that go with it, I think we should keep all that.
Sounds good.
Okay, I have a motion by Santos.
Second.
I have a second by Nathan. Any further discussion?
Well, the only way to actually fix this is with a roll-up door. That's the only way to do this
Yeah,
correctly,
I know.
because if you try to take and get by with the existing situation at hand, I can assure you that framework in that is going to get damaged trying to work around it, and it's just gonna be an obstacle. It just isn't gonna work.
They'll leave it loose, they'll probably want to take it off.
So, this is just a situation where there was an oversight, and those types of things do happen. And the way to fix it correctly is to put a roll-up door in it, take that panel door off of there, and decide what you're gonna do with this panel door. And, there's five panel doors on there that are gonna be the exact same size, Mike, am I correct on that?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, so, if you got a place to store that door, it would be reasonable to believe that at some point in time,
Somebody will damage the panel.
there's gonna be.
Stop it.
Something's gonna happen that, a door's gonna be damaged.
Trailer might.
And,
something.
I can assure you, that's just the way it's gonna be.
But we had that planned out to have a spare anyway. That's
Well,
what
it's
Mike was
working.
looking at, right?
It's working.
Isn't it? That was the whole intent on this thing. He just didn't,
So-
he didn't share that with us initially.
But, there's gonna be some
Yeah, we
costs
would've bought
involved in
this
this,
thing.
obviously, but, my position is to fix this correctly, to make it user-friendly, and move forward.
Okay,
I agree.
any other discussion? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Mike, did you have an update on the projects for us today?
Yeah, So deputies' quarters, we're getting rolling. So they have foundations are poured. The walls should have been up last week. I'm going to be down tomorrow to verify and inspect that. So far, so good. They did have a little delay. The original subcontractor that put a bid in, unfortunately, ended up having some business issues. So Myers came and self-performed that work, which honestly doesn't really break my heart. They did a fantastic job on the concrete over in the basement of the historic jail, if anybody's been over to do that. So as of last week, everything was looking good. We can expect things to start kicking along pretty well in that project. I'm waiting to get a final duration. Lane was wrapping up the schedule given that delay. So I hope to have an update for you on overall duration and where we're at milestones towards the end of the week here. All in all, that seems to be going well. Again, I had a quick chance to chat with Mike Hopkins. He was over there at the site when I was there. He's very pleased with the progress. Everything looks to be in good shape. Runoff and things like that seem to be well contained. So I'm excited to start to see some momentum building on that project as well. So that's pretty much where we are. I apologize. I hoped to have a schedule. I did not get that delivered to me into last week. But all in all, we're in good shape. We'll continue to monitor that. And it seems we're working with the county engineer. We've developed hopefully what is a good communication pathway to make sure that we're not interfering with their operations as well. So far so good. So we shall keep going.
Well, I have confidence if you get in the engineer's way, you'll hear about it.
Yes, and news is good news, but no, I appreciate, keep patience with us in the first couple of days. We worked out a few growing pains, but we will make sure we have smooth sailing from this point out, so.
Good. Okay, other questions or anything else from Mike? Mike, thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll get Jim Guys the contract running with those guys. I will let Swanson know that we are going to take the occupancy of the building, start getting ourselves moved in there, and coordinate with the overhead door with Brainor to get that material uninstalled, and then have them leave that for us, and we'll figure out where we can store that in the meantime. So thank you guys. I appreciate your patience and your understanding. And yeah, have a great week.
All right, thanks, Mike. Okay, item number 5 on the agenda is discussion and possible action to approve ordinance 07-2020-01, rezoning approximately 0.28 acres in Montpelier Township from C1 Commercial District to C2 Commercial District on the third and final reading.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Scott,
Excuse me, I'll second.
second by Nathan. I assume we've had no further communications on this, the board has not. So this would be a roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Santos?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, item number 6 is discussion of possible action to approve ordinance 07-2020-02, zoning of approximately 18.92 acres in Fulton Township from A1 Ag to R1 Residential in the third and final reading. I have a motion.
Was Eric gonna
No,
say
he's got another. I think he's probably getting ready for his next
I'll
item.
move to approve.
I have a
second
motion
it.
from Nathan, a second by Santos. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Nathan?
Aye.
Santos?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Doug? And I vote aye. Motion carries. Item number 7 are items with the Planning and Zoning Administrator, Eric Furness. Eric?
First item is just to review a special use permit that was granted by the Board of Adjustment at their July 10th meeting. There's one special use permit granted. It was for an electric substation at Highway 38 and 170th. You're probably already familiar, there's one there. Citgo had purchased some additional adjoining ground from the neighboring farmer. They will be expanding, and it's also kind of a partnership with Muscatine Power and Water. That's where that transmission line will tie into. So they applied for a special use permit to build an industrial substation next to the existing one on the expanded site. The reason it's special use permit is the original site is zoned I2 heavy industrial, which allows that kind of operation. That was done some time ago, but essentially that constitutes spot zoning. It's a chunk of heavy industrial in the middle of the the ag district. Since that original substation was installed, we have placed electrical substations and those type of utility facilities as a special permitted use in the ag district. And so I didn't really feel it was appropriate to expand spot zoning, so the new substation is just by special use permit in the ag district. So,
Okay. Good, any questions for Eric on that? Okay, item B is review and possible action to accept 2 variances granted by the County Board of Adjustment on July 10th, 2020.
okay, the first variance is, involves that same case, the special use permit for that electrical substation. Part of this substation expansion involves a telecommunications tower. It's not a commercial cell phone tower, radio tower, anything like that. It's a communications tower that's used for operation and monitoring of the electrical substation. There's an existing tower on the site now. It'll come down and be replaced with a new one when the expansion and remodeling is done. Our telecommunications, excuse me, tower ordinance requires a setback from all property lines of 1.1 times the tower height. With the space constraints there, their desire not to purchase any more agricultural ground than necessary, they asked for a variance that would actually encroach on the rear property line. It would not achieve that minimum separation distance. However, they are getting a fall zone easement with the neighboring farmer. There's nothing in the fall zone. So that variance was granted. It was granted conditional to them getting me the final fall zone easement agreement for review, but that is in the works with the homeowner, with the property owner, which I've spoken to. So that variance was granted that would allow that tower to be a little closer to the rear property line than what our normal ordinance requires, but we see no.
There's no other structures
There's
or
no other structures.
roads or anything that would be in
It's
jeopardy.
cornfield.
Perfect.
So, then the second variance was a variance granted to Floyd Newcomb on North Isaac to be allowed to add on to an existing attached garage that would allow the garage expansion to be approximately 9 feet from the side property line instead of required 15. It's the side of the house where the attached existing garage is at, but given the location of the houses along the road there, it doesn't create any site distance issues. There was no neighbors objection, and so that variance was granted as well. He did go through a utility vacate process to vacate portions. The utility companies have already signed off on vacating portion of that easement on that side property line as well. So those are the 2 variances that were granted.
Okay, I would accept a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Santos and a second by Doug. Any further discussion?
Just one last question. You mentioned the heights of the tower. How far was it? You said it's close. You said it needed to be 1.5 times the distance. Do you know how close it was?
This tower, I believe, give or take, the final engineering is gonna be around 140, 145 feet, and I think they may encroach on that typical fall zone easement by about 30 feet.
Okay.
So most of the fall zone is still gonna be within their property. It just extends slightly over the property
Into the
line
other.
towards that cornfield,
Okay.
but not anywhere close to the entire tower height.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item C, action to set a public hearing for Monday, August 17th, 2020 on a request to rezone approximately 6 acres in 76 Township from C2 commercial to R1 residential district.
So moved.
Have a motion by Nathan, second by Scott. Did you have any comments on this, Eric, or just?
No, they just need to get the public hearing set.
Okay. So, public hearing, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item 7D, discussion of possible action authorizing the chair to sign a voluntary property acquisition program purchase offer for 1995 Sweetland Road, Muscatine, Iowa, in the amount of $185,000.
Okay, I'm pleased to announce that following the receipt of our grant agreement with FEMA and Iowa Homeland Security, development and review of our purchase offer, that we're in a position where we're going to be able to make a purchase offer to Tom and Debbie Antrim for their residence there on 1995 Sweetland Road. As you're aware, they've been displaced for quite some time given the catastrophic structural issues with that and the slope instability. So this is the next step in that process. I have an appointment with Tom today, pending, Tom and Debbie both, pending your approval of this to make an offer.
Okay.
So,
I will say there's two other properties that we are still looking at purchasing. They're in the floodplain, that we've not made purchase offers yet on those. I'm hoping that by August, we will have final word on CDBG funding that would cover that local 15% match that's typical. Because as you recall, that was the board direction that those two, we wanted to not spend any taxpayer dollars, but if we had CDBG money, or the owners were willing to take 15% less on that grant, that we would proceed that way. Because I'm being told that CDBG dollars is still coming, and those two houses are still occupied, those residents are not displaced. We've not been pushing that or asking them to take less than their appraised value. So hopefully by 1st August, we'll know what the CDBG funding, and we'll be moving on those two as well.
And this has been a long process. I appreciate your work on it. I'm sure the Antrums do as well. Just remind anybody else out there who has not maybe been following along the whole way. These are folks whose disaster monies are appropriate because their house was sliding off a hill due to the flooding and the rain. So that's what's going on there.
and Eric, in regards to the funding for this, taxpayer dollars is 15%?
15% local share.
Okay, and then the rest is through the FEMA and the Homeland that you got.
75% federal through FEMA and 10% through state of Iowa Homeland Security.
So when we have that, then the county owns that building or owns that home? Or
So
what
that
do we do exactly?
that structure will be demolished. We have, right now sitting in the FEMA Public Assistance Program, the estimated amount for demolition. And that structure will be completely demolished. The site turned into perpetual green space by a deed restriction. And yes, Muscatine County will basically take ownership of it. We're required just to maintain it as green space.
So we can't sell it and then
No.
just have somebody never build on it?
We can't, I don't believe we can transfer title on it. A few properties from following the 08 flood, we've allowed conservation to use them for public areas as long as it's green space, but they're still owned by Muscatine County. And
Yeah,
there's-
you'll find we have a few pieces like this.
No, and that's what I'm wondering, if there was a way we could use it, either the
That's
conservation or something that we
It's a
could.
FEMA requirement that we cannot sell it, and there can never be any sort of permanent structure
Yeah.
placed on it
And I'm
again.
good with the
Maybe
permanent
the bond.
structure, I was just thinking more
Is
of
there
the,
any maintenance requirements?
It
On the
really,
lots
it
for
really
us.
depends on how you have it seeded. When I write the RFP for demolition and grading, I'm gonna work with Keith on what's best there for stabilization of that hillside, because it gets fairly close to the sweetland. But there's not gonna be much maintenance, it's a fairly small yard on a steep slope. And it has very limited value to anybody else for anything, because it's, the house is on both sides of it, so used as a conservation area, it's,
okay, but see, that's what if we could just say, hey, the neighbor wants to get this lot, we'll give it to next to nothing, but end up getting probably it on the tax rolls again.
the previous ones along the river, the neighbors are free to use them as expanded picnic area or
okay.
yard space, as long as they don't build anything. We don't police that as long as they're not developing outside the restrictions of the deed.
That lot is not stable enough.
No.
Yeah, you can't.
In my opinion, what should be done there is put a native grass seeding on that with some wildflowers in it, and everybody can enjoy the wildflowers as they go up and down the hill. It'd be minimum to no maintenance, and that would satisfy that position very well.
Yeah, that's something what I was envisioning, minus a strip, that would be considered shoulder of the road that they might need. I don't know how much they really don't mow
Sure.
that area now because they're yards, but we want to make it easy to maintain too.
But there'll be, if that's planted correctly with some forethought, there would be very little cost to the upkeep on that.
Well,
Okay.
hopefully they buy a home in Muscatine,
I believe they already have.
Muscatine County.
Okay, so I'd accept a motion.
I move to approve.
A motion by Scott,
I'll second.
second by Santos. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries. Anything else, Eric? Okay, thank you. Item number 8, items with County Engineer Keith White. First up this morning, we have discussion of possible action to approve various utility permits.
Yeah, good morning. We have one today from Telecom Construction in Clearwater, Minnesota. And they're basically placing a new telephone service at 2610 Stewart Road. There's very little involved there. They're going from a pedestal to a pole.
Okay.
Make that motion to
I have
approve.
a motion by Santos,
Second.
second by Doug. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Do you have a projects update today, Keith?
I do, there are two main projects going on, the G28 paving, and basically the same as last week. They're working east of Funks Hill, which is a reconstruction area, so tearing out the old road, placing a modified subbase, trimming the grade, getting ready for paving, frankly, getting enough paving out in front of them to make it worth that. We don't think they'll be paving again for a few days. And then to the west, so behind the paver, they're still working on shouldering. One up on Old 6 RF58. They've got, I think last week I said they were done with the culverts. That was wrong. We got 2 of the 9 left, 2 of the 9 locations left to do. There's ditching along there. They're about half done with that. Then the sub-drains will start. I'll stick with, we said, probably the end of the month for that work to start. That's been going pretty well. That's mainly what's going on. Questions on either?
No.
Okay.
Did you have anything else this morning?
The only thing I wanted to mention, I think we've slowly been headed this way, but with the transfer station, they used to not charge us, the road department, for stuff we picked up out of the ditch, which, I think we just picked up a dozen tires last week, but we're now going to be charged for everything. So I'm curious if you want that, the road funds going to that, or if the board wants to start paying for us picking people's trash up, or if you want us to just leave it there. The people that call in and want trash picked up are very demanding and they want it gone now. I don't necessarily blame them if it's in front of my house, except I don't live on a county road, so I have to pick it up myself if it's in front of my house. But I want to think about what you want us to do there, because we're going to start, and I can start keeping track, but we'll start running up significant money on transfer station fees.
When did this start? Did they just tell you this recently?
When they went down there last week or whatever, they told us this, yes. I don't necessarily disagree with it, paying for what we take in there, but it's just not gonna be, if it's trash that we generated, we've always paid for that, but if it came out of the ditch, or, had people love to dump tires into, then they've always accepted that, but it cost them apparently to get rid of.
Well, there's no secret when you charge extra fees for things, then people will find other ways to dump it rather than pay the fees.
I would almost expect ours to pick up out in the county.
I guess the problem I have with us having to pay for it is a lot of it comes from the town.
Oh,
The people
clearly.
don't wanna pay.
You
to
don't
get rid
know.
of it.
I have a parking lot close to the transfer station, and you can't believe how many tires I get dumped in my parking
Well,
lot.
they get it most of the way there.
Yeah. Now, the city has always picked them up and never charged me extra for that, but I'm sure that'll
Are you
change
offering
too.
that we can take?
No.
that?
No. I don't have a loader, and I don't have a dump truck.
Keith, do you have any idea? I know you haven't started tracking yet, but ballpark, what we'd be paying?
Well, no, I don't. I'm gonna say.
$60 a ton.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
A couple $100 a month. It's not huge, but it's.
Well, it's fun.
That's purely fees. That's not my people's time either. I mean,
And this volume is only gonna go up.
Yeah.
It's not gonna go down.
I just know how many times they pick up garbage just on 180th Street.
Yeah.
Can we negotiate a flat fee? I mean,
I like a whole living room outfit.
Well, I mean, it really depends on how much we're doing, and then I think also the sheriff does a lot with his
yeah.
groups as well too, with your on the sub-judicial as well, so. I think it warrants another discussion. I think what we need to do at least now is start tracking probably what those costs are, so we at least have a number to move forward with, and then have a discussion with the city a little bit in regards to that, but.
Yeah, and I think we need to have that discussion. I think the board probably needs to discuss. It wouldn't be my intention that the rural road folks funding the rural road tax would be
Yeah.
paying that cost, because I'm pretty sure Doug's not dumping tires in the ditch in front of his house, or trash. I mean, I see it, I drive around the county, and you see it, you get into desolated stretches of road, and then all of a sudden you got a pile of obvious excess household items. I've seen it numerous times driving around the county, and who knows where it comes from.
So yeah, there's a lot of challenges.
I think
around
we'll just ask you to keep track of the expenditure and then kind of report that back to us, and then we'll probably have a discussion with Sherry and Nancy about how we might, the board might help the county engineer restore the funding for the road maintenance that should be there.
Yeah, can you give us a report in like 1 or 2 months?
And Keith, maybe too, I don't wanna open Pandora's box, but maybe just keep an idea of, manpower and other things that you're expending to do
Well,
this.
that's,
Cause we need to understand that as well.
Well, the manpower's never really changed if they're really still doing that. I mean, that's still always a cost.
Right,
you
but
know?
it's a cost, and
It's just now the cost to pay for the fees or the dump.
right.
I know it changes the scheduling for the day when you haul in garbage and you've got everybody
Yeah,
Yeah.
out on a job.
No, yeah.
yeah, it affects his operation, which
Yeah,
is
it's
to
just a
pay,
pain.
to do road maintenance, so. Okay,
That's all I
thank you,
have.
Keith.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, discussion and possible action to approve or deny 2020 disabled veterans homestead tax credit applications as recommended by the Muscatine County's Assessor's Office.
Morning.
Good morning. Good.
I just have 15 new applications that have met the requirements for the disabled veterans homestead tax credit that need to be approved. I gave a list to Nancy's office, and so I didn't know if any of you saw that. The other one, there is one that I have that is questionable. Her husband passed away in February. So I sent her a letter in March stating that she needs to give me a new application, and also the ICA letter, or DIC, excuse me, dependency and indemnity compensation letter to verify that she is getting benefits. I called her. I sent her another letter in June, and then this morning I called her again because I didn't receive it yet. And she was telling me that it was on the way, and with, COVID-19, she's been having trouble getting it. That one, I don't know what the board wants to do with it. I think, this is 2020 assessment year, disabled veterans. It won't take effect until next August, so should we give her a year? And then review it next year again, if she doesn't give me that letter.
This applies to calendar year 2020, correct?
Right.
And when did her husband pass?
In February.
February.
So he was alive in part of 2020.
But the law says that she has to prove the benefit if it's not, okay, so she was in another house. As long as she was in that house and her husband had passed away there, she would have never had to give us that letter, the benefit letter. But she bought another house. And the law says if she buys another house, then she has to give us that benefit letter.
All right. How many other applications have we received during COVID?
Oh, gosh, well, it's just these 15, but,
So
They were before. some
And
of
you're in
them-
communication with her.
Yes,
There's
I
just
am.
been an issue with getting the letters back and forth in a timely manner
And
for
from,
this deadline.
from the veterans.
And from the veterans, getting paperwork from the administration.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm inclined to say that this has been, there've been extraordinary actions and measures this year. I mean, I know Sherry, I was discussing with her today, we're waiting on a DUNS number on something, and normally something that's very fast is not happening very quickly, and I think that I would be okay with, giving her till the next
And then
cycle to get this reviewed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we still need to continue to push to get the paperwork, but if you can't get response, you can get it done. It's
I would
pretty hard to do.
I would be compassionate and give the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And push forward to get the documentation, but, that's how I would approach it.
Okay. So then I have 16 to be approved.
So I would move to approve the first 15 and then to approve the 16th with the understanding that we're gonna review that in a year.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Nathan and a second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item number 10, discussion and possible action to accept the Muscatine County Treasurer's semi-annual report for period of January 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2020. Should have been in everybody's packet. Amy, did you have any comments about it, or?
I'm just here if you have any
Okay.
questions.
Okay. All look pretty typical and straightforward. Okay. If no questions, I'd accept a motion.
I'll move to accept.
I have motion by Santos,
Second.
second by Scott. Doug? Okay, Doug. I have a second by Doug. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 11, discussion possible action to accept the county treasurer's office report of fees collected for the quarter ending June 30th, 2020 in the amount of $197,247.88. I have a motion by Scott.
Comparison to last year, is that similar?
It's down about 100,000 roughly.
Mostly interest.
Mostly
and
interest.
Passwords, we're not getting any income on because they're shut down, so, those are our two big hits, but interest rates have really dropped.
I think you were about 350, was that with the number 330, 350 first quarter last year?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So do I have a second?
Sure, second.
Nathan, second. I have a motion by Scott, second by Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Okay, motion carries. Okay, item 12, discussion possible action to accept the county auditor's report, office report of fees collected for the quarter ending June 30th, 2020 in the amount of $5,154.44. I have a motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Santos. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 13, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the June 13, 2020 regular meeting.
I think that should be July 13th.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
July 13th. Okay, you got that, Leslie? All right, so did I hear a motion by
I
Scott?
move to approve with the revision of the correct date.
Yep,
Second.
and second by Doug. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item 14 is correspondence. Santos, did you have any correspondence this week?
Yes, I did. So I had gotten last week I had discussed that I'd had a meeting scheduled set up with Christie in regards to, the COVID costs and some of their upcoming, challenges that we've had for funding for them. So I went down to the public health building, got a chance to go through their information, kind of sharing, how many they have. I learned a lot about what they're trying to do and situation is, but the funding still being a big factor for us and asking them to look out, reach out to other funding grant opportunities. They said they were going to, so I think that's part of what the reasoning why they still haven't been able to come up here to present, because my perspective to them was until we can find some other funding, we're gonna be in a situation where I don't know where the board, at least me, speaking for myself, can't go ahead and just make this approval knowing that we're looking at another $500,000 at the going rate that they're looking at, that we don't have those funds. So at no point can I speak for the whole board, but from my perspective, it's gonna be a difficult challenge to make that approval. So in the meantime, also knowing that Jeff had reached out to Gary, looking for funding at the state, I reached out to Mark Hofgren, asking him to see if there was any other potentials that we could look at in his groups. Having done that, he did that last week, and I got a contact information from the policy advisor from the governor. Sent them an email, CC'd you in on that, Jeff, and got a reply from them that now they're looking at a economic development program that they're looking at to help the counties in the state. That the governor's working on that development, and that once that gets approved, there's going to be potential funding for us to look at that. Now, when is that? How long does that take? That's a big unknown. So for me to try to get that, I'll reply to that email. We just got that email this morning from the liaison, one of the liaisons that was working with them, and the policy advisor for the governor. On another note, I also got pics from the projects that I had requested on G28 last week, and the projects that they're doing. And that's all I had from correspondence.
Nathan?
I did not have any correspondence.
Okay. I'll list as correspondence. I did have the opportunity on Sunday, the 19th, to go out and view the new search and rescue boat. They took us out on the boat, showed us some of the capabilities. It's a fun to serve with the county members, well, I think, over the years, and they're doing a great job. So that's all I had. Scott?
The only thing I had in correspondence is I had a phone call in regard to, a gentleman called me and brush needing trimmed on Sweetland Hill there. Interferes when they're riding close to the curbing on their bicycles, and would like to see some action. I haven't talked to Keith on that, but I certainly will. That's all I had.
I had no correspondence.
Okay, how about committee reports, Doug?
I had Fair Board Thursday the 16th at 8 o'clock. And just to let everybody know, there's a big modified race this Saturday. Everybody likes racing, be a good opportunity. That's all I have.
I had, on Monday the 13th, I had Magic. On Wednesday the 15th, Riverbend Transit. Major discussion there in that operation, of course, is the unknown of the school contracts and the whole quagmire of what that is going to be.
Say that.
And it's just a real unknown.
I never thought to that. That's a pretty significant impact on Riverbend Transit.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. The Davenport school bid is a huge part of their business.
Yeah.
And then I had Board of Health also on Wednesday. But, and of course, going over the numbers and so on and so forth, and how to approach the whole COVID thing. It's just a continuation of everyday struggles there. That's all I had.
All right, I had no committee reports.
I had Magic as well on Monday the 13th.
I had a We Lead meeting on the 13th and on the 17th, both online.
What did you say about the 17th?
One on the 17th as well.
So you had one on the 13th and
Yep,
17th.
yep, with the exact board.
Okay. Thank you, Santos. Number 16 is items with the administration office. Nancy, did you have?
Being I just got back from 2 weeks of vacation, I don't have anything for this one.
Okay. I always think it's encouraging when you're not, I didn't hear of you going off the boat or any of your family members, so that's always good. Thank you.
We all
Thank
remained
you
on
for
the
coming back, safe and happy. Okay, item number 17, discussion of possible decision regarding opening county buildings to the public. This is a discussion item I think we put on a few weeks ago, when we had the initial discussion. This was the revisit it, timeline. I think we've been open for appointments, so.
I'm open to keeping things as is, and we'll reevaluate it in another 2 or 3 weeks.
Nathan, where are you sitting?
I mean, yeah, there's obviously that tension between opening and safety. We're still seeing the spike in cases. I don't know that we're seeing the spike in lethality, but that might come or not come, we don't know. I'd rather play it safe right now, as long as we're not, I don't have any evidence that we're experiencing huge dysfunction in terms of the services that we offer, and so for now, I'd rather play it safe.
Scott?
I think that what I would like to do is, I would like to be able to have everybody go back to a normal situation, but that is not, an opportunity that we have, in my opinion. I think we should, with the numbers that come through every day, I think we need to stay the course exactly where we're at currently.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that as well. We have seen a slight uptick in the county, in all counties. I think we've done a good job of keeping our employees healthy and safe. I think, and the community, and I think we want to continue that. So, yeah, so I think, Nancy, maybe let's put this back on, we think 2 weeks,
2 or 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. Where are we at? We're the 20th, so put us on let's do the second week of August. Should we do that?
Yep.
We'll revisit this on the second week of August. By then, we ought to have a clearer picture of where schools are going and everything, and
Courthouse is open.
courtrooms. And then, Jim, have you heard anything on courts and what they're doing?
They're still, they sent out
Yeah, you can do it right there, it's fine.
they sent out an order a week ago relative to using GoTo extensively until the end of the year. As long as the defendant consents. And then there were several cases that we could file a motion with the court if the judge was willing to conduct in-person hearings. That hasn't been tested yet, although I had one that I did file last week. We have met with a couple of alternative locations to select juries. I had a real positive one on Friday and had another one this morning, and are talking to the school here for Central yet this week. So that Judge Rydell's kind of been leading that charge, and so that's in process, because we're going to have to come up with something. There's just no doubt about room and space. We're going to have to do something. So the thinking is we pick a jury somewhere else and try it at the courthouse. And that's currently where things are at.
Okay. Keith, everything been running fine for you?
Yes.
Derek, you're,
I just want the board to be aware, we do have board adjustment zoning commission cases first part of August. So I wanted, I guess, your blessing to continue like we did last month. Kurt's making Discovery Center available again. I usually have a pretty good idea of the potential, for large crowds. I don't see that in these couple cases. We're able to social distance very adequately in that space, given the limited number of people. But I do intend on having an open public meeting for the zoning commission board of adjustment first part of August.
yeah, we did an EMA meeting there, kind of followed the recommendations, and I thought it went exceptionally well, heard no issues with it. That facility actually, with its alternate entrance off the back with the restrooms there in the room, it works quite nicely. You can kind of limit the amount of interaction to the rest of the building. So I think that's a good plan, Eric, and it worked fine for the last one, correct?
Yes, we had masks available, we had hand sanitizer there, I cleaned down tables before and after the meetings.
touched base with any of the applicants and anybody that expressed interest in attending to see if they were comfortable, if they wanted a virtual attendance option, and so we'll proceed the same way.
Okay. All right, so I think we have direction on that. Okay, next item is to receive information from county employees. Any county employees that wish to share anything this morning? Brian?
Sorry, would you like an update on COVID for the county?
You can do that, sure. Step to the podium if you would, Brian, so they get you on TV.
Good morning. These are numbers based as of Sunday, July 19th. There were 5 positive cases since 10 a.m. yesterday for a total of 729. 65 negative cases since yesterday, 0 deaths. And presently there is 617 have recovered in Muscatine County. So again, yes, we are seeing that slight uptick. Just continue to monitor, my office is monitoring it and working with public health and getting their input also.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
I don't know, Felicia's unmuted herself, I'll let her speak.
Felicia, are you there?
I am here.
Did you have something for the board this morning?
I just wanted to let you know that we found out that Scott County is still shut down, doing business by appointment only until Labor Day. And we're functioning very well by appointment only for now.
Okay. And you said, Scott County saying until Labor Day, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Any other county employees? Okay, the next item on the agenda is to receive comments from the public. Bill, do we have public indicating?
We have one caller and a couple of people. I believe somebody's unmuted themselves, Tom Briggs.
Okay, we have someone from the public. If you'd state your name, address, and issue.
Don Briggs, 125 Emerald Lane in Fruitland. I'm also on the Muscatine Search and Rescue, and I was glad to see that the field EMA directors did come out on the boat yesterday, and I hope they got seen some of the stuff that it can do. There's still a lot more it can do that we haven't been trained on in or in the process of training and getting SOPs and stuff on it, on that. So I wanted to thank everybody that came out on that. We ran it till we didn't get off the water till after 5 o'clock last night. So we're trying to get that break-in on the motors the last few times out and stuff. We still got about 4 or 5 more hours yet to do for the break-in on that. And then my other question is, have you guys had a chance to look at the ordinance that the code that I sent up from Louisa County for getting the side-by-sides legal in Muscatine County on secondary roads?
Yes.
It sounds like a little bit, Don, but I think we need to discuss kind of what might be a process for deliberations on that and how we might do that. Do we think we want to try to do that at a board meeting? What are your thoughts?
I would put it out, maybe set up a separate meeting to see with the general public to see if anybody's interested in it. I know you can go from Louisa County clear down to almost a Keokuk on side-by-sides and secondary roads in Cedar County and up to Cedar and Jones County, I think also has it. Muscatine's kind of in the middle of those that, there. Would I go all that way? Probably not, but, it's just an afternoon. People get on their motorcycles and go for a Sunday afternoon drive, Maybe I'd go for Sunday afternoon side-by-side ride, But yeah, everybody I talked to that's got side-by-sides are interested in it for Muscatine County. If I need to get a petition and signatures for you, I'm glad to help on that. But I think a public meeting would be great for, throughout the whole county to see if anybody would be interested in that.
Yeah, and I think, Nancy, maybe we'll talk about how we could set something up that would be effective. We'd probably have to do like a go-to, because I don't, if we don't, we'll have to watch. I'm almost thinking if we could do a combination. Bill, are we able to set up like go-to meeting out at the conservations board meeting?
Yes, we just don't have an actual conference phone out there, so that might be
The challenge.
limiting factor, but we could order one and have Lucas cable that for us.
That might be an idea, because to hold a meeting like that, you could have a limited number there and then make available for people that wouldn't be allowed in because of social distancing. We could have a conference. So maybe let's look at that, Bill, and see what
And
we.
I had contacted Kurt about the conference phone. At that point, he wasn't necessarily interested in it, but if we're going to continue, we may want to look at doing that.
That makes sense to me that you go ahead with that, and then by next week, we should have some idea the timing of that, and then we can talk about setting a date.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna work on that idea, Don. I think it's
Okay,
time.
thank you.
I think it's time to do something and have that conversation at least.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Have a good day, guys.
Anyone else out there from the public wishing to make comments?
I unmuted caller 3. I don't know if they have any.
Okay, we show a caller 3. I don't know if that's somebody who wants to make comments, or if so, speak up. You're unmuted. Okay, hearing none.
I got
Oh,
So I do have a question in regards to, I know if we're done off the public.
Yeah.
Before we
Yeah.
adjourn. I know we had discussed a while back in the potential, discussion for the building over on Washington Street. And I think it would be something that, in my view, either we discuss as a board of looking at, selling that property. We don't have really a need for it, it's just a storage area. We probably can get some funds out of that, or look at it as a discussion, or put it on an agenda as a discussion next meeting. But I don't really think there's a need for us to utilize that buildings, that we don't need them anymore, knowing that they're not.
yeah, I think the board's intention all along was once the maintenance facility was up and running, we moved all of our, and I think we also have to wait until the sheriff's quarters are done for their storage, because they had some stuff they did there. So we'd have all that done, then we could move all that out, and then it would be time to look at the disposition of that property, because the county would have no further use of it.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much the sheriff is using right now of those things that we can't move them already, if we wanted to start looking at a sale sometime before the fall.
They have evidence storage.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You got assets in there.
yeah, I think that might be a challenge for them at
Okay.
this point.
So do you want this on for next week, or do you want to wait until
Let's,
we're farther
I'll
along?
reach out to the sheriff and see, what the status of that is, and then I'll circle back with board members and you, Nancy, to find out. My sense is it's probably a bit early until we get them some space relief out
I
at the,
just wanted to bring it up.
Yep.
If it turns out
No.
it's a month from now, that's fine. I just feel that
yeah.
we can utilize that potential and then look at maybe possibly getting some funds in the.
Well, and
general
even then,
fund.
maybe we have a better idea with the project schedule for the sheriff's quarters work. We could start planning around that.
Yeah, we would get that from Mike by then.
Because, as you know, clutter expands to space allotted.
No,
So,
no. But I think it would be a good
Yeah.
asset for some of those construction companies down in that area.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would possibly wanna look at that and knowing that, hey, this.
well, and I know
county's wanting to
the
sell.
city's interested in it, it's for their yard, and I know that we've had the Corps approach us, and there's
That's fine. It
lots
just-
of opportunity.
Trade,
Okay,
a lot of avenues there.
nothing else to come before the board, meeting is adjourned.